debut albums are pretty freaking sick. But you know what's even more sick with debut albums? When the albums sound kind of rough. Now, normally this wouldn't be the greenest flag out there for a first album, but when it comes to back in the 70s or 80s, sometimes albums are going to sound a bit rough on a band's first run, especially with bands like Metallica, Van Halen, and even Twisted Sister with their first album too. And these are just a few examples from ones that I like. Whenever a band or an artist does a first album, normally they would try to get it right the first time. But not all the time are you going to get it right the first time. Sometimes things aren't going to sound as clear as they want it to be because of budget, or simply because you just don't have the best studio tech to work with at the time. But when it comes to rock and roll, especially from the 70s and 80s, there's something about some albums like Van Halen's self-debut album and Metallica's Kill 'Em All. These two albums are probably some of my favorite albums of all time, and they're not even the best mixing or production out there. Sure, you might think I'm crazy for saying these are some of the best albums from these bands, but honestly, they are really darn good, especially since because of just the roughness of it. That's what makes it so good. Like take Van Halen's first album for example. The idea with that first album that they did back in 1978, that album was meant to sound like a live Van Halen concert inside of a club, and it does it perfectly, because whenever I listen to this album, or just songs off this album, I forget I'm listening to a studio-made record. It sounds like a concert, and that's so cool to me. And also, this album is just a really dang good album. And to give the other example of rough albums that I really like, Metallica's Kill 'Em All. The reason why I love Kill 'Em All so much is because the raw, rough sound of Kill 'Em All. Sure, albums like Master of Puppets and Onward managed to give Metallica more of a clean sound and actually give better studio production, but the raw sound of Kill 'Em All just works perfectly. Whenever you listen to songs from 1983, you think you're listening to a live Metallica concert. And that was also coincidentally part of the goal with the band when they first made the album. Give that raw Metallica sound that you'll hear at clubs and gigs that they've been going around doing in 1983 because they were trying to get off the ground where they were just starting out. And that's what makes me love some of these debut albums. Now sure, not all debut albums have a rough or raw sound. Heck, debut albums don't even have a raw, rough sound anymore because usually people manage to get a decent amount of budget for their first album to try to make it sound really good. And also people had the capability to make their own music at home nowadays. But back then, some of these rough albums are rough sounding, but really freaking cool, and I love them so much the way they sound. Again, not all artists from back then had their debut album be a rough sounding album, but as I said, do I prefer rough sound from bands? No. I just think the raw, rough sound from the late 70s and 80s that some bands have put out from back then just sounds really freaking cool, and I don't see a lot of people talk about how much they like that raw sound with it. I don't know. Maybe I'm not the only one on this, but I thought this would just be a pretty cool thing to discuss because it's something I really like about these albums. Anyways, welcome to the channel if you found this video. I hope you continue to stick around for more stuff. Subscribe if you want to. I've got more videos planned for this thing. Yeah. Alright, that's it. That's all. Bye.